It's all in the preparation when it comes to creating great video. One of the most common questions I get asked is, what should I put in my background? It can be kind of confusing of whether it makes sense to go with a blank space, a bookshelf, plants, a virtual background, and I'm here to help you answer that question. I'm going to be covering the background basics and help you set the stage with your office video shoot. Hi, I'm Megan Corson. I work with executives and professionals to map out their video strategy and look great on camera. I'm here to share with you the background basics because when it comes to putting together your background, it really does set the tone for your video. It really helps you separate yourself from those who are amateurs to becoming a real standout professional. Elevate your brand, elevate your business message. So one of the first things people like to consider is when it makes sense to go with a natural setting background or a virtual background. With more people embracing video conferencing calls and having fun with that virtual background button, people are dabbling into it. They're putting palm trees behind them. They're putting fun images that they have on their computer behind them. And that's fun and all, but you want to make sure that when you select a background that it's done with purpose. I personally would recommend using a natural setting background for multiple reasons. One is that it is more authentic. People can tell it's your real space, and it just makes you a little bit more warm, inviting, and approachable. And also with the natural background, you don't have to worry about any technical difficulties. You don't have to worry about any of your movement, making the image not look as good behind you. When it comes to putting the image behind you for the background, if you're not using a green screen, then it can really get glitchy on you. And you know what I mean. Sometimes you see people move their arms, and then you get that little static effect, and then the video can slow down, and you don't want to add that extra issue in front of you when you're trying to convey an important message with your videos. So when it comes to video conferencing calls, still embrace that natural background because it's so much better technically. But at the end of this video, I will still share some great tips with you to make them even better because I know that sometimes it makes more sense. But let's focus on the natural setting. So when it comes to deciding what goes behind you, you have to consider three topics. You have to consider your texture, color, and interest. Those are the three key elements when it comes to putting together a great background for your videos. So first, let's address your texture. This is kind of adding variety and interest to your video because you don't want to just have a plain, flat wall behind you. It just really can be kind of cold and just not as warm and inviting. The background really is a way to inject your personality into it, and I want you to help embrace that because these are the elements that can make video fun. So you want to add a little bit of depth and dimension to it. Simply putting something like a bookshelf behind you, that's what I've chosen, is a great way to add a little texture and give you opportunity to place different objects in other places. Other options are if you like plants, a plant behind you is great. Having a image or a painting hung behind you, the key is to make sure it doesn't have glass on it because then that reflection from the lights you have can add distractions and just have a glare that just doesn't look as flattering. Another option is to, if you have say if you're in an office building and you want to show up your office and have all these desks behind you, that's a great thing to have as well. You just want to make sure that your camera focus is something that can really focus on you and have the background a little bit blurred so that way the focus is on you, but you have that great depth of field, that texture behind you, and it gives people a sense of what your office is like. The one thing when it comes to that is if you have employees behind you, you want to make sure that they're aware that you're shooting that video so that way they can stay in place because if people are up and walking around behind you, that can add distractions and we of course don't want that. We want the focus to be on you and your message. So let me dive into how I personally created my home office. We are here right in my home basement, so it truly is proof that you can make any space look great. And I understand during these times of social distancing, you're trying to make a space in your home look great and it can be kind of challenging, right? I want to help you make that a little bit easier. So again, you need a space that you can dedicate it to it all the time so that way you can just hop in, make it easier for you to hop on that conference call, to go in front of your camera to shoot that video blog post or create that content you need to share with your clients, your employees, your colleagues, whatever goal you have behind the video. If you have your space already set up and ready to go, then it's so much easier for you to replicate it over and over and then all your videos look great. So when it came to, for me, selecting my space, I personally had a newborn baby at home, so I need to be able to work around naps. I needed a space that was far enough away from him so I wouldn't disturb him. And for if he woke up a little bit earlier than expected, then I wouldn't have to worry about his noises, his cries, and calling for me to disrupt my video shoot. So what I did was I selected the furthest room in the house from his bedroom, and then I picked a space that I know that I can shut the door and really dedicate to this. So this is where it worked with my basement corner. So what I've done is I brought in a bookshelf, something really simple just to add a little texture, and it also serves function. So you can see here I have some, I have a box here, I have some fun objects here. I like to bring my personality into it. So I personally love the beach. I grew up on Cape Cod, so I can't help but to love the beach, ocean, and boating. So I have this fun whale tail here, and then I have this painting of the beach. One thing that I did on purpose too was I embraced my brand colors. My colors are cobalt blue, aqua, and purple. So you'll see little pops of it here. So again, everything's done on purpose. Nothing is by chance. So you see I have pops of blue here, a little bit of cream there just to add a little extra flavor. And you can even see on this other side here, I have this purple book here and a purple mug. So again, it's all injecting the colors of what I have. Another element I brought in is messaging. Behind you is really an opportunity to bring your company's message. If there's a certain phrase or term that you guys are known for, bring that into play. If it makes sense, then why not? Have some fun with it. So I have this sign here that I created that says your video brand, because that is a common phrase I use in my workshops and presentations. I speak and consult on video, bringing your personal brand on camera, and mapping out your video strategy with these elements. So that's why it's here. It's just kind of reinforcing the messaging I'm always sharing when it comes to going on video. And that's what you can use your background for, to reinforce that message you have. So bring those elements into play. Let's say, for example, you sell medical devices and it's something that is larger, that can be seen on camera. Why not place it on a shelf behind you? That can be kind of fun. Or if you have some sort of diagram or image of a product that your company sells, you can have that hung up on the wall behind you. There's so many different ways that you can bring your work in there. And if you want to focus on something more so simple, just having books on a bookshelf behind you can add some great texture and to make it interesting for you. Now, you have to be careful when it comes to books, because if they are all behind you and it's all different bright colors, that could be a little distraction. So a little easy trick with that is to just flip the books the other way so you only see the paper. So that way it just adds those neutral colors, just those creams, those whites, and that's a way to reduce distractions but still have that great texture behind you. Anything that's not within the video, you don't have to worry about. You of course want to create the space so it's functional and comfortable for you to record, but again, just being mindful of within the frame, that's all that really matters when it comes to your background. So now that we've covered texture, let's dive into color. I touched on this a little bit, but I want to highlight this a little bit more. When it comes to color, you want to make sure you have a general theme with your color palette. Now, you don't have to necessarily bring your brand colors in. It certainly is an opportunity to do so, but you want to make sure that your colors behind you are muted or things that don't overpower what you're wearing. So for example, I make a point to never wear black or white because those colors tend to not look the best on camera. You can certainly make those work. If those are your colors, then it's a matter of making your background the opposite. But you'll notice that the main colors behind me of the bookshelf and the wall behind me are gray and white, because I know that I won't be wearing those colors and I can easily stand out. You see I'm wearing a deep teal jacket, so that way I'm standing out from my background. I'm not blending into the background. If I was wearing a white blouse or a light gray shirt, then I would blend in a little bit and not stand out as much. So you want to have that in mind. So if you are wearing certain colors all the time, have the background be the opposite. And again, it's better to have lighter, muted colors because it's just so much easier for you to stand out. For you, your skin tone, it's just a little bit more flattering that way as well. And then when it comes to adding other colors on top of it, you want to make sure that your objects aren't neon colors, unless let's say orange is a big brand color. That makes sense, but again, you would be super selective if you bring bright colors in. So you see again, I have little pops of blue, aqua, and purple in here. It's not a lot. It's just enough to have a little bit in there, but not so much where it's overpowering what I'm doing. And again, the reason why these colors can work is because they're not adding movement. If there's any sort of movement behind you, that can become distracting. People can look on that and watch that object move off the screen instead of focusing on you and that virtual eye connection you're trying to create and that's when your message gets lost. So you want to always keep people connected through your eyes and, of course, what you're sharing with your message. Now let's shift to the final key, which is interest. So you want your background to be interesting, but not too interesting to the point where it becomes distracting. We've covered some ways to add some interest with textures and colors, bringing your personality, bringing your company brand in there. Those are the ways to make it interesting, but again, you don't want it to be distraction. So when it comes to just looking within your framing, think about what actually looks great. Focus on how it's set up, what is within that shot, and then see how it compares to you and your body. Let me give an example of something that people often miss. Let's say you have a plant or a lampshade right behind you and it's just really straight up. There's just some straight lines behind you, but it looks like it's coming right out of your head. If you had a lamp or just a plant perfectly placed behind you and it looked like you had green leaves just like flowing out of your hair, that would look a little bit odd, a little bit funny and not in a way you want to. And then your audience, your viewers, they're focusing on what's behind you and how funny you might look than your actual message. And you're not creating that virtual eye connection. They're losing it. They're not connected with you. They're focused and lost in the background. That's something we want to avoid. So just think about, what does it look like around you and how does it work? So I purposely, within this video shot, I angled it because if I had the camera right in front of the desk I have in front of me and then the bookshelf behind me, it would read as very flat, and then some of the lines behind the bookshelf would look like they'd be coming out of my shoulders in certain shots. So that's why I purposely have it angled this way. And I also have purposely placed my sign that says your video brand right here to the side so that it's easily legible. No one's distracted or trying to figure out what it says. They can easily glance at this image right here, but then still focus on me. So that way they're not wondering, I wonder what that says. I wonder what that says. They have a full view, little quick glance. It's just a little bit of phrasing there, very simple, not too distracting, but just enough to add a little bit of interest, reinforce my branding, and not get in the way of the message. So always keep those in mind. Again, we covered a lot, a element of texture, the element of color, and the element of interest. Those are the key elements when it comes to making your background look great. Now, I told you I was going to give you some tips when it comes to your virtual background. Again, it is not my preferred recommended background, but it does make sense in some scenarios. You might just not have the space to make it work, or you might be in a pinch and you just can't gather your paperwork together. It just doesn't work with your environment. So you have to embrace the tools you have. So when it comes to creating a virtual background, you want to make sure that you are lit and make sure that what you're wearing is very different from the background. Again, just like you would have your natural one, you want to make sure that your background is kind of flat compared to you, because that makes it easier for the web camera, if you're using a video conferencing service, to decide what's the background and put that image behind you. Now, there is the option to put video behind you, but I highly discourage to not use video because that can be distracting and more technical issues can happen with that. Because if you're moving and there's video, it's more likely for it to not come out as well. And for when your hands move, you'll see that the image just doesn't look great. It breaks up a little bit and you don't want that distraction. So make sure you're lit up well, your background isn't too similar to what you're wearing, and if you're in front of a plain wall, that's even better, so that way it can just make it easier for it to separate you from your background. And also when it comes to deciding that image behind you, I recommend embracing it. If you can use a company logo, design it, have it faded behind you so it's just interesting with colors, but not, again, too interesting. You want it to make sense for what you're sharing. And again, this has a more corporate, elevated, professional vibe, which is totally great. It makes sense for a lot of companies, but again, it doesn't quite feel as inviting and warm like it does with a natural setting, but it still can look really great. Something like this can work well if you have a really important executive message to share with your team, something that's really high level and important. You want to convey some level of seriousness, a level of importance to the message. A virtual background can do that, especially when professionally done when it comes to logo design. Now, some people you can make look great if you have a great, slightly out of focus image of your office behind you, because then it can kind of look like you're in your office. Again, these images can be hard to put together, especially if you're not as flexible with going in and out of the office right now when you're stuck at home during these social distancing times. So that's something to bring into play in the future. But again, when it comes to your virtual background, it's a matter of just keeping it simple and making sure you're using it with purpose. You can bring the elements that I just covered for the natural background, your texture, color, and interest to bring in there. It's just a little bit more difficult to bring texture into play because, of course, it's a flat image. But again, it's a tool that you can use and something that can make sense for videos. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you found it really helpful. Again, my name is Megan Corson, and I want to leave you with this. Your background sets the stage for your office video shoot. Lay it out so that you're the star. Feel free to tweet that. Your background is really your opportunity to elevate your videos. Embrace your video brand and make it easier for people to connect with you, to feel connected in your space, and elevate your videos in general. Whether you're using it for video conferencing calls or shooting video content posts just like this. It really is something that people overlook, and I want you to really think about every element when it comes to your videos, and your background is just one of the pieces that can really take it to the next level. If you found this video helpful, please share it with your friends and colleagues. I really want to help people embrace their videos and set them apart. If you want to learn even more information on this, please go to megancorson.com. You can find the full blog post on this where I dive even deeper when it comes to your natural video shoots and also your virtual imaging in the background. If you want to connect with me even more, feel free to find me all over the web. You can find me on YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You can find all that at megancorson.com and connect with me more. Thank you so much for joining for another Mondays with Megan. I'll see you next time.